Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and to be able to share with you a perspective on what's next, possibly, in the field of education. The TUMO Center for Creative Technologies is a free-of-charge after-school program for teenagers. It's a very intensive program. Students come twice a week for a period of over 2 years, typically, and they alternate between self-learning using content that we have developed, and workshops where they work with other students and industry professionals to create things, to make video games, computer programs, movies. What you're seeing on screen now is the software we use to automatically create personal learning plans for each student so that each individual has a different trajectory adapted to their skills, their interests, how fast they're going, etc. These are color-coded, the elements you see, by the 14 skill areas that we cover, which are these. So they range from coding and robotics to animation and filmmaking to graphic design and photography. And no individual student can cover all of these. Some try, but typically they cover 2 or 3 of them, mixing them in an interdisciplinary manner to create their projects. And at the core of what we do is a question around the learner, around the rights of the learner, the interests of the learner, which is, what would schools look like if students could walk away without any consequences? This is what we call walk-away pedagogy. And how would schools have to change so that they come back, so that they don't walk away? What would schools have to do in order to keep students' interests, motivation, without the obligation and the discipline that we typically see in schools around the world? Make it more fun. Make it fun for students to come. Turns out doesn't work very well, because students can do fun on their own. They play video games. There's a lot of competition for fun. Also, we want to have meaningful learning outcomes, and so fun is not the objective. It could be a means, but it turns out it's not a very effective one. What we do instead is empower students in a way that makes them come because they want to learn, not because they have to learn, by making learning consensual. And a year ago, in summer of last year actually, we had the pleasure of having 2 impact assessments done in Armenia, where we're based, and in France. In Armenia, the program had existed for 12 years at that time, in France for 6 years, and the results were very encouraging. My favorite result is on the top left. It turns out TUMO students perform much better in school than their non-TUMO counterparts, even in subjects such as math, that we don't teach. And this was a very rigorous, what's called a randomized control group study, which compared TUMO students not to average students around the country, but to other TUMO students who had just entered the program. So comparing somebody who had just joined to somebody who had been with us for over a year, and seeing if that year of TUMO experience made a difference. In addition, it turns out they perform much better in university than their non-TUMO counterparts. And because TUMO has existed for over 13 years now in Armenia, somebody who had joined back at the beginning when they were 15 or 16 years old is now gone through university and is in the job market, so we're able to make those comparisons. They also tend to be lifelong learners. They have their personal projects more often than not. They tend to work in tech and design, and as a result, they make more money on average in general than their non-TUMO counterparts. They are also more aware of global issues like climate change and other things, that more so than non-TUMO counterparts, and they have a higher level of satisfaction with their life and their work, etc. So this was very vindicating, if you will, very encouraging as we moved forward into the 2024 and are expanding the program. At the basis of this walk-away pedagogy are 7 principles that, looking back, we try to isolate as the kind of design principles behind the TUMO program. The first is choice. It's about giving the learner the choice of what to focus on and what to study. The second is personalization, making sure that each student, as I said before, has their personal learning path, and that it is specific to their interests, how fast they're going, how they may change their mind over time, and the path will adapt to their kind of aspirations and expectations. The third principle is about mixing and not discriminating. We mix obviously genders, but also ages and kids from different backgrounds. And not only are they in the same workshops together with kids with other characteristics, but over time, as they go from one workshop to another, they mix with different students. So they're never necessarily with the same cohort of kids. And so if the group dynamics doesn't work in one case, it will in the other, and so on. And we believe in group dynamics, we believe in group work, but we think it's detrimental to some students, many of them, if this dynamic is exclusively teamwork. So that we believe in alone time. We give kids a chance to study on their own, to do what we call self-learning activities until they feel confident enough and are ready to jump into a workshop setting, which becomes a more even playing field with somebody who might have gone through the self-learning very quickly, but no one knows, and once they're in the workshops, they're peers. We believe in providing constant help and feedback for a couple of reasons, but the most important one, and we have learning coaches which are always circling around the kids. It's an in-person program, it's not online, and trying to get kids unstuck, because we really think that learning efficiency is very important. In other words, how quickly you're going through the material, that you're not bogged down and thinking that you're wasting your time, not understanding, etc. And so getting kids unstuck and helping them move on is very important. It's a passive kind of help. The coaches are there not intervening until they're asked to. They obviously don't help in terms of solving problems or giving answers, but they play a crucial role in moving the process forward. We don't believe in diplomas. We don't give certificates. One reason for that is that employers, increasingly universities, certainly parents want to see what you've done rather than a piece of paper. So instead, we have each student have a personal portfolio. Everything they do, the application they make, the animation they create, the game they develop is uploaded to this portfolio, and that becomes their living diploma. And there's a learner's rights consideration behind this, which is that we don't want to be in a position of power giving a piece of paper in exchange of a certain kind of behavior. We want to empower students to just do what they want to do, create, and be productive, rather than conform themselves to our requirements in exchange for the diploma. And finally, we like to keep the curriculum and the projects real life, in the sense that working on things that are relevant to the students, to their communities, to their interests, and working very often with professionals from the field rather than professional teachers who may not be as up-to-date and as connected to the real life of the industry they're working in, like, for example, filmmaking. So these are the 7 principles that we've come up with, but again, all of them revolve around this idea of consensual learning, learning because you want to, not because you have to. This is our name-dropping slide. We've had these people visit TUMO in our headquarters in Yerevan. Most recently, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, the CEO. Less recently, Angela Merkel, when she was Chancellor of Germany. And they've said nice things about us, but more importantly, they've helped us expand internationally. And as a result, we're now in multiple locations around the world, hoping to come to Seoul, to Korea as well. We're working on that. We started with Paris, beyond Armenia. are very active in Europe, but now we've also gone to the United States, we're going to Japan, we're going south towards Bangalore, to African countries, to South America, but we hope that process will continue. It's always free of charge. It's always the same program. It's always consensual learning. This is an image from Paris, the TUMO in Paris. This is the self-learning area. So as I mentioned before, students engage in self-learning, autonomous learning, based on content we've developed, helped by coaches who are always roaming around. And then they go into workshops based on what they learned. And then after a 1 month long workshop, they're back in self-learning in this area to prepare for the next workshop they're aspiring to or hope to get into. Unfortunately, this center is closed currently. Hopefully it will reopen soon. It's in Kiev, one of our very beautiful centers architecturally. It's an old armament factory. This is a center in the second largest city in Armenia, in the city called Gyumri. It's a very special center, very large one, very red. And I show these as an example of what we call our hubs. These are large centers in fairly large cities or towns which have thousands of students. So TUMO in Armenia alone has 25,000 students that attend on a weekly basis, coming twice a week. Around the world, we have, I think, 35,000 now. And a center like the one in Gyumri has a capacity of 4,000 students over the course of a week as they come in shifts. And this is a map of Armenia. Our ambition is to make TUMO available nationally to every student within 40 minutes at most of their house or where they live. And that's why we're planning to have these circles are the large hubs, multiple hubs throughout the country. We have 6 now, we want to go to 16. But as you zoom in, so the top left is Gyumri, the red center I showed you. Around it are many villages which are too small to have centers of their own, but they're too far from the center in Gyumri for a 15-minute, let's say, or 40-minute access. And so we came up with this idea of the TUMO box. These are 3 recycled shipping containers made into a very nice, pleasant classroom equipped with the same technology you see in the hub. Sometimes we can do triple or quadruple if it's a larger town. And they are placed in the middle of the village, next to a school typically, and they become an inspiring kind of alien object in the best sense of the word that has come in, and or even before students join the program in the box, they're already inspired because of this strange phenomena that has appeared. Okay, speaking of strange phenomenon, AI has appeared in our village and has created all kinds of challenges and possibilities. And I want to spend 5-10 minutes to talk about how we're dealing with artificial intelligence and how we're trying to harness it to enhance the program and to empower teenagers that come to TUMO. Earlier this year, we gave a talk at the headquarters at UNESCO where we laid out some of the principles behind our approach to AI. And one of the principles is based on, yes, the admission that there are many challenges and dangers that come with artificial intelligence. Bias, stereotyping, intellectual property issues. We know about them, all of us. I'm sure all of you have attended lectures or watched videos where people talk about these dangers, and they're all real, and they're especially important for teenagers. But we believe that taking a mainly defensive approach, being too focused on these dangers, can actually exacerbate them, can make those specific issues more problematic than they otherwise would be, especially for underprivileged populations, like the ones in the Armenian villages, for example. We feel that instead we need to empower kids to take part of innovation ecosystems and to define their relationship with AI from a position of power and knowledge and not from a position of fear and defensiveness, because it just won't work if they're motivated by fear and caution alone. Okay, at TUMO we've been doing machine learning and AI for a very long time, maybe 5 or 6 years now. And I'll show you an example of the kinds of things we've done before in technology. This is a short video that we can watch it together. It's about a workshop in which students learned how to use AI, machine learning, to interpret medieval documents, Armenian documents from the Museum of Manuscripts in Armenia.
Այստեղ արել ենք image processing մագաղատների վրա եւ մեր համակարգիչը նկարները այնպես է հարմարացրել, որպեսզի կարողանա հեշտությամբ սովորել դրանցից։ Իսկ այստեղ գրաֆիկորեն պատկերված է machine learning-ի process-ը։ Այստեղ մեր նախադասություններն են, որը սովորում է համակարգիչը, իսկ ներքևում նեյրոններն են, որով նա սովորում է, որոնք հենց հիմնական ֆունկցիան են կատարում։
So these were 15, 16, 17-year-olds who were actually writing code from scratch to do machine learning, automatic character recognition, but with medieval texts. But generative AI has changed the game. It's not just about these technical, mathematical coding challenges anymore, because there's so much more that can be done with AI that was possible even 2 years ago. And so we're now focusing on bringing AI to everybody, regardless of their level of technical interest or ability or skill or background. And I want to show you a video where our students, this was a year ago, engaged in filmmaking using AI. The technology they used was very new at the time, and one problem they had was that they couldn't get continuity from one scene to another. In other words, a character created by AI in one scene would look different 10 seconds later, and so it was difficult to tell a story continuously. They used that as a creative tool, actually, made a story about lovemaking where they came up with this idea of your perception of the other when you're in love changes, doesn't correspond to the reality of who they are, something like that. I forget what the premise was. But they actually made a film about falling in love that used that kind of deficit, that flaw, as a feature. Let's watch it together. It's very brief. So when people tell me, does AI, kill creativity? How will creativity survive the introduction of AI? I sometimes refer to this video, but also this video is a very important reminder for us that this technology is changing extremely fast. When we show this video at TUMO, our team is very embarrassed. They say, please don't show this, we can do so much better now. And this was months ago, not years ago. And so that kind of brings me to my next but, which is that it's great that we're using AI, but we have to be conscious that tools are evolving extremely quickly and that unlike with other technologies, we have to keep learning, we have to become learners as teachers because we have to keep reinventing the curriculum. And to do that, we had a conference last year around AI where we assembled lots of knowledgeable people who work in education and AI. But this year, or next year I should say, in March, what we're doing is a special conference that will be global on AI for teens. So specifically by teenagers, for teenagers. And again, we're actively looking for a partner in Korea who can be one of the 15 or 16 worldwide locations where this conference will happen simultaneously, kind of chasing daylight from Japan all the way to the US with multiple conferences overlapping with each other. We're now building an AI learning coach, and I can talk more about that maybe during the panel. We're infusing AI into all these technical areas that I talked about, graphic design, filmmaking, coding. We're also adding a 15th area called generative AI, which will be about creating AI agents, multimodal agents that use these different disciplines in a multimodal way. One of the examples is a workshop where we'll do an exquisite corpse exercise where one agent creates a piece of art, passes it to the other one, designed by another student, then to another one, and it ends up being very different from how it started, but hopefully maintaining the theme. That's one other example. So at the center of all this is the learner, and we always are asking the question in general, but including for AI, what kind of learner do we want to see emerge from this in terms of values and perspectives, in terms of soft skills, self-confidence, initiative taking, etc. In the case of AI, we feel that this is at the confluence of three different personas, let's say. One is the consumer, because it's inevitable. We're all going to be already consumers of AI. We should not fight that, we should embrace that. But we need to be critical consumers. So the critic is an important part of this persona. As consumers, we need to understand what's behind this technology, what are some of the biases, implications that flow from this very powerful tool that AI is bringing to the table. But we also want them to be creators. We don't want them to just be critical consumers. We want them to be, as I said, in charge of the relationship with AI, using it to do the things they want to do, to make the stuff they want to make. So consumers and creators at the same time. And finally, we want them to be critical creators. We don't want them to be irresponsible about how they're using intellectual property as they're training AI systems, being conscious about some of the biases that they're bringing in. The images you saw in that video were all young, white, a boy and a girl. They don't look very different from what Armenian kids look like. But if they made this video in Asia or in Africa, they would still have come up with white kids falling in love. And so the question of who's determining what the character looks like is something that, as a creator, they need to think about critically. And so at the intersection of these three things, the consumer, the creator, and the critic, is where we want our value system, the value system of our learners, to fall. We believe that this kind of approach to education has the potential to create large, life-changing learning experiences on a large scale, and scale is important. And I hope that this kind of approach will enter different education systems, especially the formal education system, over time. But in the meantime, we hope that we can expand our footprint, our reach, so that we can bring this free of charge to more kids around the world. Thank you very much.